As DJ Khaled would say, another one. Brandon Ingram has just been traded from the New Orleans Pelicans to the Toronto Raptors in exchange for Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, a 2026 first round pick via the Indiana Pacers, and a second round pick. We just watched this trade on Twitter kind of develop. It was getting closer and closer and reported to gain a lot of traction. And before we knew it, boom, it is official. A lot of people have been reaching out to me, asking me what I think of the fit, what exactly is going on. I'm going to just be honest with you. I don't know. Bruce Brown always seems to be a player that is more sought after for playoff teams or contending teams. So to see him be on the Pelicans for the rest of the year, I don't know how I feel about that. I also am not sure, what the Pelicans can do. Can they flip him again? Can they trade him to another place? Is a third team going to come out of nowhere and take him? I'm not sure. I do see Kelly Olynyk maybe finishing the season over there and with the Pelicans, especially after they've traded Daniel Tice to the OKC Thunder. As far as Brandon Ingram, there are a lot of similar styles over there in Toronto with RJ Barrett being on the wing. You got Scotty Barnes as like this point forward guy. You now add in Brandon Ingram. You have Grady Dick. There are a lot of similar play styles for sure. I am just happy as a Brandon Ingram fan to kind of get him into a new change of scenery out there in Toronto. Will he stay with Toronto? I don't know. Obviously, he's going to go into free agency this offseason and really figure out his next home and where he's going to be. But there is a chance that something happens here. I think this is just too good of a trade for the Raptors to not take advantage of. I've loved the season that the Raptors have had because they've been able to be competitive while maintaining the tank that they're doing. And I believe if this pick conveys in their favor this year, they're going to be a really quick retooling of a team versus rebuilding. And I'm with it. Sometimes you have to just sit back and generate talent, whether that's from the trade deadline, somebody like Brandon Ingram who's valuable, but right now the value dropped this low that you were able to trade some assets and some players that you had no connection to going forward in your future. And you are looking like a team that's going to have potentially a top 6, top 5 pick. When everything kind of gels together for the Raptors, as soon as next year, they can be right back in the mix for playing competitive basketball. Is anybody here to convince y'all that the Raptors are going to win the 2025-2026 NBA Finals? Not at all. But I do think that they could be one of those teams that have a drastic change of how they look from this year to next year. They're well coached. They have some exciting players. They've shown some flashes this year. They now added even more talent. And again, they potentially can have a top 5 pick depending on how the lottery falls their way. Brandon Ingram in New Orleans, it was good while it lasted. Unfortunately, it was just one of those situations where everything just wasn't able to click. Brandon Ingram was hurt. Zion was healthy. Zion was hurt. Brandon Ingram was healthy. Both were hurt at times, and the entire roster has kind of been that way this year. But over the last few years, they've just dealt with this injury bug kind of glooming over the franchise, which hasn't allowed this team to reach its fullest potential. It is kind of sad because I looked at the Pelicans for the last few years as this team that could be a young, fun, and scary team. How we talk about the OKCs and the Rockets and all the Grizzlies, all of these other teams. The Pelicans were looked at to be right in the mix with that, and it just hasn't gone that way. DeJounte hurt himself in the first game, and now he has the Achilles injury. Trey Murphy has had injuries. It's good to see him back healthy and playing at the level he's playing at right now, but he's dealt with the knee issue. Zion has had all type of health issues now to the point where they don't even want to play him back-to-back now that he's fully healthy. Herb Jones has missed time. B.I. has missed time. It's just been a complete mess. Dyson Daniels goes to a different team, and he does an interview saying that there's something in the water. I don't know, but I'm just happy to finally see that situation kind of come to a full rest. And my guy, Brandon Ingram, who I'm a big fan of, and as much as I'm a fan of him, Brandon Ingram's value and what he sought after to be around the league, it got murky. You know what I mean? Like, Brandon Ingram is one of those players and one of those talents where I don't know where to place him. He is an all-star level player. But he plays a particular way. The way he plays isn't the most analytical or beloved way that a lot of people like basketball to be played these days. They kind of want that one-star player, and everybody else is just standing around a perimeter like this. Ingram is not necessarily that guy. And so I'm interested to see how they incorporate him in Toronto, and I'm interested to see the rest of his tenure there and what's going to happen when he goes into free agency. What type of money is he going to command? And if he goes back to the Raptors, what does that look like? You now have RJ, Ingram, and Scotty Barnes. You have Grady Dick. That's already 4 bodies on the floor right now. What's going to happen with Emmanuel Quickly, who we haven't really seen that much of? There's a lot of questions. And if the ping pong balls fall their way, and hypothetically speaking, what if the Raptors were a team that shot up and got the #1 overall pick and got Cooper Flagg? You're now talking about RJ Barrett, Brandon Ingram, Cooper Flagg, Scotty Barnes. That's a lot of wings. That's a lot of wings. Shout out to my boy D Mills. That is a lot of wings. But yeah, ultimately, I think this is a trade that the Raptors couldn't pass up on. Brandon Ingram, no matter how you feel about him and how you feel about his game, he is just too talented to pass up on for a package that's Bruce Brown, Kelly Olynyk, a first round and a second round pick. So shout out to the Raptors for getting in there. And again, I think the Raptors, they're headed in the right direction to have a quick turnaround next year. They've done a really good job again of being intriguing, being exciting in some games, fighting real hard, but making sure that they don't win too much. Matter of fact, I want to check the standings just to make sure I know exactly where they are. But when you talk about tanking, having an exciting tank, they've kind of done that. Yeah, they're 16-35. They're right there in the same range as the Hornets and the Nets and the Utah Jazz. So they're in that mix for the bottom 5. We'll see how that translates for them when it comes time in June for the draft. The only teams that are worse than them is the Wizards, the Hornets, the Pelicans, and the Jazz. Yeah, they're right there in the top 5, the bottom 5 range to secure themselves a top 5 pick or even higher. So we'll see how that continues to play out for the Raptors. Again, BI, new spot, new home. And for the Pelicans, maybe you find another third team that you could flip a Bruce Brown to. But I would definitely expect to see Kelly Olynyk remain with this roster. Kelly Olynyk is also like an interesting guy because he's going to space the floor. I don't think in Zion's short career we've seen a legitimate 4 spacing 5 that can run some minutes with him in the front court. So we'll get a look at that. And yeah, another trade, another player that we were expecting to be moved for months now, even some years. These trade rumors and trade talks for Brandon Ingram and the Pelicans have gone back for years at this point, and we get it done. This trade deadline is just a gift that keeps giving. Luka, De'Aaron Fox, Jimmy Butler, Brandon Ingram, Chris Middleton, and Kyle Kuzma. There's still 14 hours, 13 hours left for maybe Kevin Durant still getting traded. Even the trades that didn't happen, just the idea of Kevin Durant potentially going back to the Warriors was like a mind-blowing thing as well. For him to come out and say, I don't want to go to the Warriors. We've seen storyline after storyline after storyline after storyline. So I'm very excited to see exactly how the trade deadline wraps up tomorrow. Make sure y'all are tuned in to Pee Wee the Plug all trade deadline long. Make sure you follow and subscribe to my Twitch, Pee Wee the Plug. As long as the trade deadline continues to have moves, we will be streaming at the end of the deadline, going over everything that occurred. As always, I appreciate y'all, and I will see y'all when more news happens. I'm out. Peace.